are looking forward to how do we work together in this time, as that's been the overall national theme, is being together and working together. And this is a true testament to that. And so I definitely am excited to be here again. And I want to turn this over to Margaret, who is going to, actually, one of the things we want to do too, Margaret, is we're recording this webinar, so we hope that is well with you all. The idea of recording it is to have it as a resource as we have some generative conversations about taking care of our communities in this time of COVID-19. So this will be recorded as well, so that you all be able to get access to it and use it as whatever pieces of research or information that you may need. And I do want to now pass this over to Margaret, who's going to give you a sense of why this meeting.
Thank you, Alonzo. Can you see the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Could you guide us, Alonzo, through the self-intros? And
absolutely. So we will do. Yeah, so we'll do self-intros really quickly. If people can just tell us really quickly who you are, who's represented, and the organization that you're working with. And this doesn't have to be long and drawn out. We'll have conversations later, but just name and organization.
Hi, this is Lisa Leverett, and I am from the D, that would be the big D, Detroit. And I am the Executive Director of Community Connections Grant Program. And I'm also affiliated with lots of other organizations. One of the main themes throughout them is to engage with marginalized communities and look for alternative ways to practice philanthropy, leadership development, and organizing.
Thank you, Lisa. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
It's good to be seen. It's good to see you as well.
Somewhere in her mind.
This is Dolores Adams Henderson, and my organization is National Self-Development of People.
Oh, we know.
Good morning. My name is Karen Brown. I am a proud member of the National Board of Self-Development of People and work with a nonprofit in Baltimore called Intersection of Change.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Mandy.
My name is Theresa Vidar, and I work with the staff of Self-Development of People in Louisville, Kentucky.
Thank you, Teresa.
Good morning. Can you guys see me? Because I can't see my window at all.
I
don't know if it's not.
Let's see. I'm going to see if we can see you there.
If you can't, that's okay. My name's Anise Cousin, and I'm, I work at Churchtown Dairy, but I'm organizing a women's group, and we are going to work together to kind of create a community of women who encourage and support each other to develop passions and skills that will, benefit the individual to have, kind of, a secondary, stream of income and diversified, skills, but also will benefit the greater community.
Thank you, Anise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I hope everybody can hear me. I can't see myself in the window either. But my name is Fern Cloud. I am happy to be here this morning. I represent the Dakota Community Council, which I am a member. We are organized to support the Dakota communities in Minnesota, South Dakota, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota. So we work with any issues that, whether they are on what level, state, tribal, national level, to support Dakota concerns in those arenas. Thank you.
Thank you, Fern. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Yes, this is Monica Lewis Patrick. I serve with We the People of Detroit here in the great city of Detroit. And the issue that we work on most prevalently is the human right to water, along with other groups and marginalized communities, not only in Detroit and around the Great Lakes, but across the country and around the world. So we see this as a struggle of all people to secure water for all.
Yes, we have the water warrior with us. Welcome, Monica, welcome. Honor to have you as well.
Hi, everyone. This is Legia Carter. I'm calling from Jersey City, New Jersey, and I'm representing the Hudson County Hunger Project. And our mission is to work with local restaurants here in Hudson County to dispatch meals to our most vulnerable populations in Hudson County. And, you know, we really serve two purposes. It's to feed those who are in most need, but also to work to try to keep our small businesses open at the same time.
Leisha, thank you. Good to hear and see you as well.
Same here.
Wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Hi, everyone. This is Margaret Moile, and I'm on staff with Self-Development of People. I serve as Associate for Community Development and Constituent Relations, and so happy to have all of you with us today.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Hey, this is Troy Glover in New Orleans. I'm the director for an organization called Center for Employment Opportunities. Formerly on a team with SDOP, some of my favorite people in the world. Happy to be a part of this.
Hey, Troy.
Hey, Troy. It's good to hear you, brother. Good to hear you.
It's good to be heard.
Anybody else?
You guys want me to go?
Yes, boy, you're right on time, Phyllis.
Good morning. It's a great day in the neighborhood. My name is Phyllis Edwards in the great city of Detroit, where I am the executive director for Bridging Communities. Our mission is to ensure that seniors have what they need to remain in place. Also working diligently on affordable housing. And by affordable housing, I don't mean the 80% AMI that currently is the status quo for Detroit, but affordable housing for those 60% and below. Is it my part now? I'm sorry for being late. I was on another call.
No,
okay.
Wait, you may be coming up soon. Let's see.
Not quite.
We have Margaret's going to talk about this. Has everybody had a chance to let us know who you are and who you represent? Who has not? Then I'll say something really quick. I'm Alonzo Johnson. I am the coordinator of the Self-Development of People. I'm excited to be a part of this team and also excited to be able to be in partnership with many of you. We have all, on some level, Lisa was on our national committee, Troy has worked with us, Legia, Fern, of course, is a powerful voice in the Presbyterian Church for First Nation folks. So it's a real honor to be with you all today, and we're excited, but also incredibly ready to learn what you all are facing and ready to learn more about how we can address the communities that are in question. Margaret, you want to tell us a little bit about the purpose of this webinar?
Sure. So the purpose for this webinar is that, as we all are aware from listening, watching the same news across the country, COVID-19 has devastated communities and continues to devastate communities across this country as well as globally. And so really what we wanted to do, because of the mission and mandate of Self-Development of People, which is to partner with community-based organizations, i.e. grassroots groups across this country and outside of the US as well. We wanted to hear from those of you that are on the front line. What are the challenges that you are seeing and hearing about in your communities, and what are you yourselves doing as you deal with these challenges? How can we come alongside you and partner with you, even as we learn more about what some of those issues and challenges are that you are facing? So we wanted to hear directly from you. We wanted to hear the stories that only you can tell of what's happening in your communities. And we want to make sure that your voices and your experiences are really something that we are aware of as we continue in this work, so we can best know how we can respond in a manner that would be effective moving forward. So we're really looking forward to the conversation. And having said that, I will pass it on to Phyllis.
So once again, good morning. It's indeed to be among the wisdom on this line. SDOP, as you know, as some of you may know or may not know, our mission is to ensure that those living in poverty have an opportunity to lift themselves out of poverty. And we do that by providing funding for them to do that for groups 10 or more. Never has that been more needed than right now in this period of COVID-19, and how we are able to, I'm very honored to be among like-minded folks who found it necessary to shift our funding, have the flexibility to shift our funding so that we could accommodate COVID-19 and the communities that's being impacted by it the most. And so we are reaching out to those funded organizations that we funded in the past to see what work that they're doing in COVID-19, and if we can support them financially, and also requesting that new groups who are doing work around COVID-19 make applications so that we may be able to support that work as well. We don't know what the outcome of this journey is going to be, but we do know that those with the least amount of economic and financial resources will be impacted the most. And so SDOP is, in this attempt to get ahead and be proactive, have already made these decisions, and we're moving forward, providing additional funding as it lasts, where we can't, as it lasts, to those organizations that we know are on the ground doing the work. And so as we hear the stories today, we certainly will be listening for opportunities where we may be able to reach out and say, hey, look, you know, we heard the story today. Maybe you can apply for some additional funding, realizing that our funding sources are, you know, are not as liberal as, not as, I would say, in the amounts that we would like. But what we can do, we will do. And, you know, it's imperative that we all work together to you know, to make this journey as easy as possible for those that are going to be most impacted, especially our communities of color. And with that, we will move to our listening session. So we had some questions, I do believe. Alonzo, you're going to facilitate that piece, right?
Yes, I will. I think we may have, we're going to put the questions out on the screen too. Can you all see that? First question is, what has been the impact of COVID-19 on your organization and community? So what has been the impact? Let's have conversation. What's going on? What are you all experiencing? What are you seeing? What's happening?
This is Lisa. I can't see my my screen, so you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So what we do at Community Connections is alternate philanthropy. It's getting funds and resources to groups that are on the ground that you know that understand their own problems and understand how to enact their own solutions. And that's what we do on a regular basis. And what we found is that folks who have been really marginalized and from vulnerable communities can do quite a bit with quite a little bit. So in this age of COVID, you would think that was enough, and it's not. So what we've done is we've shifted to a much more basic survival model, and we've just launched our rapid response grant. So we had conversations in community with what's going on now. Oftentimes, folks confuse the fact that if a situation is away one day, if they're working in a decent way on one day, then I can continue. Different situations require different tools. So with COVID, we found that the different needs and the gaps that have emerged are very different than a regular day of inequity and disenfranchisement. As well as, in addition to the fact of the society and culture's response. We often hear folks talk about there's no food. Right now, there's no shortage of food in communities. The food stamps have been maxed out. Food pantries are there in large amounts. And to some degree, folks are responding because everybody is under siege. So the way that's affected us is we've had to restart conversations with people where the gaps are in the needs, so that we're not replicating what's going on with other folks, and there's not a redundancy in the system. So our new grant, our new rapid response, well, we're pretty quickly. We can generally turn around things within 30 days. Now we're trying to turn around those dollars within 2 weeks, because a lot of it is based on survival. And so being rapid and then hearing what's going on in community and being able to respond to the new gaps and continuously talking to community, because these gaps, as we find out in 1 week or 2 weeks, those needs can change in a matter of weeks as more voices become involved in those conversations.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Under siege. Wow. Anyone else? Fern, what's happening with First Nation folk? What's happening with COVID-19 and our communities, our Native communities? Can you speak to that?
Oh, yes, thank you. I think the greatest impact that our communities are facing is the lack of employment, which is, most of the communities that we serve in the upper Midwest here and on our tribe, it covers a lot of ground. So we have a lot of communities in a lot of different states, and the greatest economical force would be our casinos, which employ a lot of Native people. And so, it's been a real hardship considering that, we are, we have been, economically oppressed for many years. But we are beginning to see that the tribes have really stepped up and have become more looking into their own resources. Where we come from in our country, it's a lot different from the mainline non-Native communities. Many of the tribes have looked into their own resources. Let's say for my tribe, what our tribal council has done was we have a buffalo ranch. So they, they took down 7 buffalo, 1 for each district, and they gave it out to the elders. Number one, elders are very important, to our people, and so they also took a lot of the food items from the casinos and distributed. And this is happening all over. In Minneapolis, Minnesota, we have another very, very large casino that took all their food items and donated it to a nonprofit for the Minneapolis area, Native and non-Native alike. It's called loaves and fishes. And so, you know, even though we have, you know, are experiencing a really uncertain and time, Native people have experienced this, you know, throughout our history, and so, you know, this is not something that is just, you know, new to us. You know, without work, without resources, you know, confinement, you know, these are things that we've gone through throughout history, and you know, we're not that we are happy with it. It's just a way of life for us, it seems like. So yeah, it's been I think the greatest concern or that I've heard is because we are really family oriented. It's, you know, it's been a hardship for many people to be away from their families, even though, you know, we are really close in our communities, in our tribe in the reservations. You know, it's the concern is for our elders, you know, that we don't want to go visit the elders because, you know, nobody wants to be responsible for you know, if they should you know, they should become sick because of their visit. So there's a lot of different you know, hardships that we're facing. Most of the tribes up here in on our part of the country have closed their reservations to outsiders. So, which is a good thing, and they're checking, you know, the roads onto the reservations. So, you know, our greatest concern, of course, is the Navajo Nation, and I'm sorry Bill Gui didn't get to come on. I think he had a time difference, as I did too. I thought because I'm on Central Time, so. But let's see. Outside of that, you know, most of our Native communities already have a high rate of compromised health, such as diabetes. So it's been a real sensitive time for those people, and they.
Thanks, Fern. Are you still there?
Yeah, I got kicked off a little bit here.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
about, you know, that's about it.
Okay. Okay. I'm thinking, Leisure, what's happening around you?
Yeah, sure. So if you're familiar with the Jersey City, Hudson County area, we are literally right across the Hudson from New York City. So we are in the, you know, quote unquote epicenter of the COVID crisis. And much of our news and instructions on how to navigate the current crisis really come from Governor Cuomo, who is the governor of New York. I say that to give some context as to kind of what we're dealing with at the moment. We are dealing with very high COVID cases and death rates, and as well as we've all been socially isolating since about March 7th or so. And so the Hudson County Hunger Project was birthed out of the fact that because we are in the epicenter of this crisis, and we have, and Hudson County and the largest city in Hudson County is Jersey City. It is a very racially and ethnically diverse area. We have a large senior population as well. When the social distancing mandates were created, we all knew that that was going to impact our seniors, as well as our persons with disabilities, and of course our homeless population dramatically. At the same time, it has definitely devastated our small businesses, particularly our small restaurants. And so what we're experiencing here is one with so the Hudson County Hunger Project, we disperse meals to seniors, homeless individuals, as well as persons with disabilities who are homebound due to the crisis. And even if we do, quote, reopen this area, they will likely have to remain homebound longer because of how they're talking about that integration process looking. And so what we've found with delivering the meals is that due to how the crisis has unfolded here, many of our seniors who had received meals from other meal programs like Meals on Wheels or other programs like that, those meal delivery programs have kind of scaled back the amount of meals that they've provided due to safety precautions, as well as just due to general shortages in resources. And those resource shortages could be a variety of things. It could be actual meals, as well as they just don't have as many drivers because people are falling ill or people are afraid to deliver food, or a variety of other reasons. Also, we find with our seniors that the meals that we deliver are meals that are created by our local restaurants. It is helping kind of keep them above water throughout this crisis. So there are meals like that are right off the menu that are healthy and nutritious. And for the individuals that we deliver them to, they find them very helpful because they might have had a caregiver or a that was making their meals for them every day. And now due to social distancing guidelines and these restrictions, those people aren't there anymore to make their meals for them and to care for them. And so delivering the meals to them, one, it gives them something to look forward to, but they don't have to think about making the meals for themselves. And the meals are wholesome and pretty hearty. I think one of the main things that we think about every day is that we don't know how long this is going to last. And so thinking about sustainability, thinking about unknowns, and just having safety and security around what we do in light of the fact that we don't know how long this is going to be and how long our seniors and our persons with disabilities will not have the access to their caregivers, to their family members that they're used to, is something that we think about all the time. Particularly here where we know that, every week we're being told that we're going to still be isolating for longer. So I would say that I mean, we were created out of the COVID crisis and trying to help where we can. So yeah.
Thank you, Leisha, very much. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Monica, what's happening in Detroit with water?
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Alonzo. In Detroit, what we have is a couple of things. We were already in a crisis as it relates to water shutoffs, and that has been an occurrence in the city of Detroit now for a couple of decades. So we have been seeing since 2014, over 171,000 households have been shut off from water. And one of the challenges is that the water department is not obligated to track those families, and that we have been very aggressive in challenging the city to really pursue a pathway of water restoration way before we found ourselves in the middle of a pandemic. Now where we are in the middle of a pandemic is that you not only have approximately 9,500 households with anywhere from 3 to 4 persons per home without access to water, you also are in the middle of a pandemic where you have a digital divide where 50% of the city does not have access to the internet. And then as Lisa Leverett pointed out, you have a normal occurrence of a food desert, but right now in this pandemic, you have an urgency to push out food, but we're also having to remind and coordinate that food effort with water relief because of those families that still have not found themselves turned on. I think it also would be important for this family to note that SDOP was instrumental probably in about 2014 in being able to invest in the work of many of the families and the women that we work along with who are still experiencing water insecurity. So this work of water delivery that started for us almost 7 years ago has never stopped. So we not only are delivering water to our friends and our families here in Detroit, we've been instrumental in collaborating with other water insecure communities such as Flint and Benton Harbor. And we've also been on national phone calls just recently in the middle of COVID-19 to help others envision how to be able to mobilize and put together a water rights hotline and respond to their water insecurity issues. So for us, it's been a ramping up of a need to get greater technology out to the community, because as people are having to shelter in place, it's very difficult to access information, apply for their benefits, their SNAP benefits. Some of our communities are taxed with minute phones, so they don't always have the ability to use their phones as another form of technology. So we have shifted some of my, what I believe is our relationships with partners that have been willing to support the water relief. We've been able to shift some of our internal dollars that we would use for convenings and gatherings, really shifting those to do more truck rentals and to stipend young people, because 50% of We the People of Detroit's volunteer base was 60 plus. And so given the essential service protocols, you cannot assist directly with water relief if you are over 60. And so we've had to shift, and with shifting, we have a large population of young folks that are unemployed. So we've been able to stipend those folks to begin to do more of our water delivery, and then shifting our older folks to doing more of the phone calling, the check-ins, the updating, the data input. So it truly is what we know, self-determination and cooperative work, Detroiters helping Detroiters, but also Detroiters helping others help themselves, because we actually have codified a model at this point, not one that we are excited to be a part of, because we believe water is a human right and people should not have to haul water when they have a perfectly good functioning infrastructure. But it also is a wonderful opportunity for us to talk to our partners around the Great Lakes and across the country to begin to lift water as a human right and begin to hopefully raise the consciousness of the country that we cannot allow this moment of a pandemic to define us, that it really should be a transformative moment of ushering in this right for all of us, not only in this country, but connecting it to the global stance.
Yes, thank you, Monica.
Yeah,
thank
can
you
I,
very much.
Alonzo, may I ask the young lady a
Absolutely.
question? I'm sorry, I'm trying to do multitask here. So given the fact that during this pandemic, we know that the water company can turn on water for, I know they haven't done it for everybody like they should, but a great majority of people whose water was off has been turned back on. How are you using that to leverage water for all in the future, or are you guys working on that?
We are working exactly on that, because the big push for us these 2 decades has been to restore water, not only from the perspective that it is just good public health, but also in terms of revenue generation. It makes sense that if we can create a pathway, especially for low-income families that fall within the federal guidelines of 200% or below, that those families should not pay more than 3% of their income to access clean, safe, and affordable water. And what that would mean is that the more people that are able to stay on the system, it actually generates more revenue to maintain the system. The fewer people that are paying, it actually increases the rates. And so we have been advocating for a water affordability plan, not only here in the city of Detroit, but also in the state of Michigan and across the country. And some of that collaboration has yielded great fruit. What you saw happen in many of the states across the nation that were willing to enact a moratorium, and those states that were progressive enough to enact a restoration plan, That work came out of several years of work at the national level with partners that were convening themselves collectively as parts of coalitions. So water affordability has been something that the city of Detroit actually authored and has led on since 2005. You'll see the same policies being implemented in Philadelphia and in Baltimore. They have taken the template from Detroit that we have not been successful in fully implementing as of yet. And what we know is it takes about $1 million in the city of Detroit to just help one family, to just help 1,000 families get their water restored. So putting in place a water affordability plan is not only a part of the work that we hope to continue to do here in Detroit, but it's also a part of the work that we are connecting with nationally and also internationally in terms of the self-developmental goal number 6.
Thank you.
Can I add, this is a really great example of how SDOP dollars and investments can become catalytic when working with groups that have a focus and that have the desire to move through building their capacity to grow in an issue like water on a policy note. We the people have been instrumental with having the governor demand a moratorium statewide, not to turn off water, and to demand that water be turned on for citizens that were disconnected in Detroit as a matter of public health, as well as brought dollars to that. Now it's not moving as fast as it needs to be, and there's probably a lot of blame to go around with that. But we the people and Monica and the folks in that small group were instrumental in pushing and informing and offering guidance to the governor. Also, when you start talking about a public health issue, we the people have always raised that up. If living without water is a public health issue during COVID, it is also a public health issue when COVID is not there, right? And so through that, people would question that, and even the governor, prior to issuing these moratoriums, she said, "Well, no, it's not a public health issue." We the people, as a community, they have a citizen-led research arm because they found that they had to buoy themselves. One shouldn't have to arm themselves with a voluminous knowledge and information that water is a public health issue. That should be very clear on its face. However, when communities of color and vulnerable communities advocate for something, people often push back and question with preposterous assumptions. So we the people have a citizens-led research arm, and they partner where they own control and they actually inform how that research is done, and which I think is pivotal to be able to move forward, and for folks that are a part of it understand the medical, the policy issues, the sociological issues that are behind it, but also to be able to make the case to other folks, even when you shouldn't, for something that's a human right. And that's one of the things that communities of color and disenfranchised communities have to contend with, is they have to make the case that their humanity matters, which is a problem. But with the citizens-led research arm, that came out. So that investment from SDOP, I mean, of course, that just laid the groundwork to launch all of these other different pieces that were present. It continued to give them visibility, build capacity, and so those are the kind of things. And when I heard about SDOP, when I heard about We the People here, I heard that they were a group of people passionate about changing their own conditions, that they were working and meeting every day or several times a week. And I was hearing good things about the group. And so they were at a state of readiness, and they were serious about it. When you hear Monica Lewis-Patrick and others in that group, the passion that they speak with, and not just this passion, but the authority and their clear their clear understanding of the issues within water and the foundational and equitable issues that surround water, food insecurity, and all those intersections. Those are things that an investment by SDOP, when you invest in groups like that, the investment is like just multiplies.
And Lisa, just to add to that, it's actually allowed us to do exactly what we have envisioned and our mission to be, which is to provide more tools, more training, more mobilization so the community is leading themselves. And so the excitement that we're at right now is we're seeing partners that we partnered with in 2016 that were providing food assistance now have gotten active in citizens-based science to be able to drive their own narratives and to be able to be a part of empowering community to shape and feed into policy development, which is a major part of where we're seeing the need for systemic change. So it's an exciting moment if you're looking at it beyond trauma into transformation. And that's the piece where I think there are so many groups that we could lift up, like Brightmore Connection has really taken the tenets of what you gave us, and they've been able to build on it. And we really believe they would be a great candidate to continue on with the SDOP support because it truly is people helping people. Half of the folks that are helping us to distribute food and water are the very people that are food and water insecure. So what better for people to really step into this next wave of support from SDOP than a group like that, who we have a track record with, who has done this tremendous level of grassroots from the bottom up lift that really could use that kind of infusion to further their work.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and this is Phyllis, and that's why I would think that, you know, you guys, as we have these conversations, as you think of those groups, have them to reach out to us. I'm in Detroit, Phyllis Edwards. You'll have my information. I'm sure this will be available after. Have them to reach out so that we can make those connections and get some funding to those folks who are doing this work.
And if you have that information, feel free to share that in the chat room as well. I want to move us along to our next question because we have not had a chance to hear from Anise and Troy, and I want them to get an opportunity to talk a little bit about what's going on. Anise and Troy, do you want to give us an idea of what's happening in your context?
Yep, I can go. Hey, y'all. So in New Orleans, I serve as a director for an organization called Center for Employment Opportunities that works exclusively with folks on probation and parole. And so really during this time, two words that has stuck with me are equity and trauma. New Orleans has been the most incarcerated capital state. Louisiana has been the most incarcerated state in the world for a while. And even when thinking about equity and disasters, even during Katrina, folks would the least end up suffering the worst. During that time, I was 15 when Katrina happened, and I was here during Katrina, and I stayed a couple of nights in the Superdome. And so for me, my organization provides temporary employment for folks who really need it. And when thinking about that, I was really trying to figure out how to bring on and get additional crews to be able to serve more folks coming out of incarceration, because we know that jail is literally one of the unsafest places for people to be during these times. And so anticipating that folks would be releasing individuals from incarceration, I was thinking, how can I provide additional employment? But my thinking now has shifted. And so what I did with the organization, they were a national organization at 26 cities across the country. What we did was made a pitch to our funders to say, hey, like, this COVID-19 stuff is real. It's unprecedented waters. And instead of trying to do the norm and the usual, what can we do differently? And so we made a pitch to say, what would it look like if we can provide a stimulus payment to recently returned individuals? Because we know that for a lot of reasons, they would have been prohibited from getting the payment. And our funders bid on it. So how it works is we pay our participants in my organization through a pay card system and payroll. And so they bid on it. And so across the country and in New Orleans, my goal was to get money directly to people who need it. without many restrictions, but just provide funding for folks who need it, especially returning home from incarceration. And so I'm happy to say that, like, we got funding to provide a stimulus payment for 600 recently returned individuals in New Orleans of over $2,200 each. And that's what Little Check-In, that's what Little Barrier is, simply putting money in the hands of those that need it. And so that's been a huge success. We're rolling that out now. And it's a way to provide payment while not putting them on the front lines of being super susceptible to getting the disease. And so we're trying to figure out how to do more of that and how to really protect vulnerable populations in an equitable way. And so that's how we're going to New Orleans. And I think that's across the landscape as a whole.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you. Our next question here is, what has been the impact of, I'm sorry, we had the next question up. Did it go back to there it is. As a result of COVID-19, what are you doing to prepare yourselves to reopen? What's happening? What's going on?
We never closed. This is Lisa. We never closed. We're working still on the ground. We're just working from home, making sure that we have a no-touch kind of environment to operate in and still provide all of the support through the grant program, technical assistance, the rapid response, etc. One of the things is when we're thinking and talking to our funders and other folks about it, is to make sure the inclination in most funding sources are moving all in to a COVID response, right? And that's kind of what the moment kind of dictates. But for us, we had to really talk about it as a tight walk rope, because this is not going to last forever, and there's going to need to be resources for when this is over, whatever it looks like when it's over. And so one of the things is just making sure to have that balance, and then continuing to, we're always assessing about how to do best in the moment, but also be prepared for, in the near future. Because communities their needs are gonna shift again as we move through this pandemic. And I think it's important, even though it's traumatizing in the moment, and we must mobilize, we must prepare ourselves to stay mobilized over the life of this. Because so many things, as we know, in communities of color, when it's a hot button issue or when there's a crisis, everybody responds, for a number of reasons, like, the human condition, the human nature. But we must, this is a sustained fight. Just like water didn't come about overnight, poverty and hunger did not come over, housing insecurity did not come out overnight. This is part of a larger fight. And so for us, we're just trying to make sure that we're balanced in being able to be here and stay listening to whose voices we're hearing and whose voices we're not hearing.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. Yes, a sustained larger fight. I think that's a powerful statement, and so real on what our communities are facing. And I think about that, and I think about what Fern mentioned, and the sense of communities of color. We already know this kind of craziness, but it's again, we have to, under supremacy and under oppression, we have to find the resources, and for the larger sustained fight that we're going to have to, as the rebel, going through the rebel after COVID-19 is, quote, over, that there will be that sustained fight. Absolutely. Thank you for that. That's really powerful. Anybody else? How are we preparing ourselves to reopen?
Hi, this is Anise. Our group is really taking on the question, and it's really for us still in like that, recognizing that there's going to be something that we have to address, but the children returning to school, and also there likely will not be summer camps. And what do we do with that time? It is an opportunity. It could be an opportunity to kind of catch up and academically be sure that they're going into the next year prepared. in the face of all this. But I mean, I think that, you know, and in talking with the group and discussion with the group, we just really outlined the many layers of issues and problems, but really, again, how do we look at it? Opportunities to address many things. I think this could potentially give us leverage in the content of, you know, what's being instructed. As, you know, as parents being required to take on this teacher role, I think that we have an opportunity to leverage and say, yeah, what you're teaching our kids, we need a little bit more real content. So, you know, this is, again, a discussion among the group. Also, you know, the children who have learning disabilities and their generational disabilities, how can we address, you know, children home with parents that really aren't capable of keeping them, you know, up to speed in their work and prepared for the next year? And how, as a community, how among ourselves can we develop, you know, those skills to then, you know, reach and find the answers to those questions. Again, also, you know, when work opens back up, but there isn't summer camp, how are these parents going to go back to work, and what are they going to do with their children? Or are they going to lose their job, and then do we have another problem, you know? So how can we develop, you know, say the woman who is a waitress but always wanted to work with children, to now transition into working with children. So now a mother is able to go back to work, and this child has you know what I mean? So these are the questions that we're asking and what we're kind of preparing for as we look at what is the future of this and what, you know, we're looking at education. I didn't weigh in earlier on the first question, just really quickly. We definitely see that food access has, you know, really shown to be a challenge that the city of Hudson, New York, Columbia County is addressing. Just over the course of a month. The youth department turned into kind of a food pantry, boxing meals to deliver to members of the community. And in the first week, they were at about 50 meals. And at the end of the month, they are now approaching 300. So it's definitely something that's fast developing, and community is coming together. Really, it's community members, it's businesses, it's farms just coming together to figure out how to address that problem. Yeah. Also, just wanted to say I'm working, so I'm like filling store orders. I'm in and out, so I'm hearing a lot. I'm actually able to catch a lot, but I'm just in and out. So excuse me for that. I apologize.
Oh no, at least we appreciate you, and we figure you all are on the ground even in isolation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we definitely appreciate your time, because we know you are working as you are working, right? And so thank you for that. And so food access and pantries seem to be a recurring theme, food and water access in these conversations. Anybody else? What are we doing to prepare ourselves to reopening? I know some states like Georgia, there's been this kind of reopening that's happening, and people are just saying, look, I need to get my nails done. I need to go out and do these kinds of things. I'm gonna go ahead and go for it. What are we doing to, you know, how are we preparing to reopen? I mean, what's happening with us? What are we feeling? I mean, maybe many of us, just as Lisa said, you know, we were never closed at the same time, but how are we knowing that reopening and actually being with people until this thing is going is not gonna be sustainable? And so what are we doing virtually? What are we doing in the way of, you know, alternative and creative community work? What's happening? Anybody else for the good of the whole in that question?
Well, I would say for us with the Hudson County Hunger Project, our focus is on scaling our initiative and our project. And so we started out, we were co-founded with a restaurant partner. So myself and the co-owner of a small community eatery co-founded the project. And we, when we first started, we were doing about, I guess, like 100 meals a week. Now we're up to 300 meals a week. And so we brought on another restaurant, and now we have partnered with the Department of Health, Hudson County's Department of Health, to bring on, to really build a consortium of restaurants to be able to really dispatch a higher number of meals every week. And so starting in a couple of weeks, we should be dispatching between probably 600 to 1,000 meals a week to residents within Hudson County. So I would say that our focus, I mean, we're open. Our focus is much more kind of disaster crisis relief efforts. So we're really just focused on scaling because we don't see in the conversations that we've been having, and our conversations are with local business owners who want to be a Hudson County Hunger Project restaurant partner, as well as with stakeholders within the Department of Health and our Office of Aging, is even once New Jersey and New York reopen, we don't foresee the people that we serve, the persons that we serve, being able to really be out because they represent our most vulnerable populations. And so we just know that they're not going to be able to be as free to kind of be outside, because if they were to contract COVID, it would be devastating for them potentially. You know, we're still learning so much about this disease. And so we really have to ramp up our ability to provide meals to these individuals, to our seniors, to our persons with disabilities that potentially are homebound, where their caregivers cannot come and care for them. So our focus really has just been scaling to have a really solid model of meal providers for the duration of this situation, even once things are officially reopened, because we don't even know what the new normal, I really don't like that phrase, but what that new normal would look like for the individuals that are our target population.
Thank you, Leisha. Thank you. Yes. Mm.
Yes, Alonzo, this is Monica with We the People of Detroit, and I agree with Lisa. We never closed. As a matter of fact, we've actually had to expand our services because of the need. I would say that where I have seen great fluidity has been around the fact that when the city was challenged with identifying persons whose water is still off, which still is a challenge, the community was able to quickly respond through collaborative partners and get materials translated into 4 languages within a matter of 2 days. We were also able to respond by utilizing our water shutoff data and the hotspot COVID-19 data in terms of advising the city and the state that if they would look at the correlation between where water has been shut off and where the highest number of COVID cases are, you would see that there's correlation, and those would be the best communities to target for leafleting and also for testing. This same conversation has been shared with other municipalities, and so it is a part of a bigger project that we're talking about doing on a national scale. We're overlaying through a mapping project not only the COVID-19 concerns, but then other poverty vulnerability issues, so that it could help us do a better job of giving a right now response, not only to what we're seeing play out with the stimulus policies that needed to be responded to, but then building the policies that take us beyond COVID, which is going to be water equity. Because right now what we're on pace for is about 36% of the country not being able to afford their water bills in the next couple of weeks. And I would say another last piece is that we're preparing not for to fully scale back up within a couple of weeks, but our researchers are telling us to prepare for a 10 to 18 month some level of shuttering in place or needing to socially distance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the same here. Yeah.
So we have this almost sustained pandemic and double pandemic, even just kind of even a triple pandemic of poverty, race, and COVID-19. Absolutely. And the sustained pandemic is to be prepared for months of this. Absolutely. Anybody else for this question? We have one last question for you. And if we can change the screen real quickly. Thank you. As we navigate these uncharted waters, what questions of concern arise within you as you deal with COVID-19 now and in the future? Who have we not heard from? We have the participants here.
So this is Phyllis. One of the questions that I ask is that as a social worker, I guess the social worker in me, I always look for the good in a situation. And so coming out of COVID, we have had families, though stressed, spend more time together than they have been able to do in the past. Children have had more time with their parents, parents more time with their children in their homes. And so my question would be, like, how can we use that to continue what we used to do traditionally, you know, spending time, family and dinner and things like that? How can we use this time to really pivot? I hear people talk about, you know, normal and what will the new normal be? Well, I certainly hope it's not the normal that we've come to know, because we've taken a lot for granted, such as people's right for water or quality housing, you know, the isms that impact us, lack of resources in various neighborhoods and communities. And so how can we, I asked the question, how can we use the good that has come out of this, coalition building, residents stepping up to help each other when you didn't think that they would, acknowledging where our shortcomings has been, like not really providing the necessary resources to our medical team, to our community development organizations. How can we, and really appreciating teachers for the work that they do, right? Teachers are now having to be very innovative in teaching their kids online and being able to address that, and neighbors helping neighbors. How can we leverage all of these resources that were there but were laying dormant? How can we leverage that to really continue to move the needle for our communities in a positive way? So that's the work that I see some of the folks who I'm working with in the city of Detroit, especially some of the community development organization leaders. That's the question we're asking. And so what that looks like, we don't know, but that is a platform that we're willing to take on.
Thank you, Phyllis. That's wow. That's powerful, because as we're learning, you know, we've been told we can't work from home. People have been told they can't, and we find out many people can. People have been told that we don't have models to be able to accommodate folks, especially low income, and we're finding that we can. I think that's powerful. Thank you for that.
I'm going to change the narrative just a little bit about us working from home. We're not working from home. We're at home doing work.
Well, absolutely. Thank you for that clarification. I want to poke a little bit. Leisha, I like what you mentioned about having a problem with new normal. Speak on that a little bit.
Okay. Because it's really building off of what Ms. Phyllis said, is that, you know, I feel that when we say that this is a new normal, we are normalizing and making okay the way we lived before, instead of really interrogating the areas that really needed improvement and strengthening before. I've shared with, you know, a lot of people that I really do see this as a very divine reset, and in a multitude of ways, for myself personally, for our community, and really building off of what Phyllis said, is like, where there's a lot of things that were dormant, that weren't being utilized, that weren't being strengthened. And by tapping into those, I mean, I can just speak for that with the Hunger Project, that we created something new that is innovative. And so, yeah, for me, the new normal, this isn't normal. I don't think there is any new normal. I think that this has all been a reset, and has, at least for me and with those that I work with, just interrogating the spaces that, like, what hasn't been done, and what wasn't being done right, in order for us to bring some better health and some better positivity to our community. And so I just personally don't want to normalize what was the past, you know. And then I really appreciate what Phyllis just said, because the positive of the Hunger Project is that there has been some bits of tension between our local city government and our small business owners, and our citizens and our residents. And with the Hunger Project, we've been able to use food as a way to connect many different stakeholders within our community, which include our Department of Health, our Office of Aging, Office of Disability Services, our small business owners, the restaurateurs, our low-income senior housing buildings, and then just everyday people. And so we found a way to kind of create a model where we're all working together to, you know, help people who need meals and food. And so it's been working. We found a rhythm. Yeah, so. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We have about 15 minutes, but I want to take 5 to really kind of open up anything that needs to be said before we actually leave this call. Anything that needs to be said that was not said or unsaid for the good of the whole. This is an opportunity. Questions, general comments, anything.
Can I just say, in general, this being like forming this group that we're forming, this women's group, is my very first experience in any kind of organizing like this around like an issue that we have all, noted. So I'm very much here just to hear what everybody else is doing and to kind of have inspiration and just hear, what everyone else is doing. So I just want to say that I'm open to connecting also with everybody and, you know, having conversations about your history, how you found yourself here, and what you're all doing. So just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Anise. That's fantastic.
Hi, this is Fern. I just wanted to share with you a little bit about what we're finding in the Native communities here, Native American communities. I can't speak for the rest of the nation, but in my part of the country, a big factor is racism. We've dealt with racism for so long. We're finding Native people are not reaching out to many of the resources that might be very helpful as far as food distribution and others, because we've have this history of racism, and the non-Native community really has never been there for us. Let's just put it that way. So there's a big divide there already. So as we go through this need for food and other, resources that might be helpful, we're seeing that's a big factor. So I'm working with some young people, and what we are coming into now, what we're advocating now for our communities is gardening. We know that this is not going to go away very soon. So we are really being proactive in encouraging many people to start gardenings, home gardens. And we're also asking our tribe to, we used to have a canning center. And so people in the community could come and after the harvest and can their vegetables. And so we're trying to bring that back. When the casinos came and, everybody had a little extra, they kind of, gardening just was not, really not needed, I guess. So we're trying to take a step back and say, we need to start doing this. We need to start being, self-sufficient. And so, and there's a lot of other, positive things that we are doing. to look forward as we go forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Fern, very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Alonzo, I like to raise up the systemic nature of everything that all of us are kind of talking about today. First, I want to say, in terms of what I'm doing now and moving forward. In the now, I think it's really important for us to listen for who's at the table and who's not at the table. We do a rapid response piece and the grants. The most affected folks are not the ones that are going to be raising their hands, because there are all these promises that have been unkept, right? And so we have to go to them, and we have to be very intentional about listening. In my work, you know, in terms of finding folks, we're finding medically fragile folks. We live on a border city. Even though food is very, very, there's a lot of food in the area. We've got folks that are undocumented that are afraid to come out the house and get it, right? And so you can't make assumptions, particularly in an environment where so much intersectionality happens. You have to really kind of, you know, we talk about intersectionality, but you really have to tweeze that out to find out what's going on with certain groups of people, because we are not all the same. Our experiences are different. And I think that's where a lot of the stress from the work comes in, where we have to move in and we have to really listen for who's saying what and who we're not hearing. I want to tie that into the systemic nature of things in terms of, again, none of this is new. We've all said it here today. And this is about unkept promises. This is about being built on an infrastructure of country with a bunch of cracks and gaps that continue to express themselves. I want to relate it to, and congratulations to SDOP on your anniversary. It's an awesome model. Let us not forget that it was born out of a model that said that you have not kept your promises. There is a debt that is owed. That was what the Black Manifesto said. The Black Manifesto said that you are complicit in our oppression, and you therefore owe us. It's the church still owes, but also it's about the whole systemic nature and the other institutions. The banking situations owe. Housing sector owes, right? The healthcare situation owes. That is why you have this huge disparity that exists for people of color and other vulnerable communities. So it's imperative that we take this moment now, for the now, listening to now, but for the future, that we have to keep the gas on. And I think, like Leisha said, that, you know, this is not new. It's not a new normal, because we've been doing this too, right? And we can reset, but we're resetting to another direction of the same challenges that have been there, right? And doing it differently. So we have to keep these messages raised up, not allow us to go back to business as usual, because business as usual is what got us in this matter today. And so I just don't want to lose the fact that this is a debt that's owed. And this is about broken institutions and people not making their promise, keeping their promises to the most vulnerable people in this country and beyond.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lisa. I instantly think about the connector when Fern was speaking and you're speaking, you know, the doctrine of discovery, right? How we still have not, you know, in the doctrine of discovery and white supremacy, have we still we have unkept promises and we have not been accountable. And we're seeing this lack of accountability happening. We don't need, just as you mentioned, COVID-19 didn't show us that. History has, and so that's powerful. Thank you. That connector is really powerful for us. I really believe that. Anybody, before we wrap up, Mandy's going to wrap us up. Mandy's one of our national committee members here, and it's 1:23. I know you all got to get back to work. Anything? Any last comment for the good of the whole before Mandy wraps us up?
Alonzo, I would like to mention for everybody, especially for people that were not aware of the SDOP before, that they can go to our website. We have all the information in our website. There are a list of projects that we have funded in the last 12 years. So that people that would like to know more about us, they can visit our website. As I mentioned before, there is a map, there is a list of the projects that we have funded in, before. Please help us to reach out to, for example, Spanish speakers communities, and that they can be, we can be part of support for them, or other communities, other languages. We have started the discussion to support other communities, for example, because right now, because we have 2 Spanish speakers in the staff, we have been able for a long time to help and support Spanish speaker communities, but we are starting discussing to support other Chinese, Korean, and other communities, so they can reach out to us to can be a support for them.
Alonzo, one more thing, really quickly. So Theresa, thank you for that. The SDOP website, for those of you that are new to SDOP, is on your screen right now. And the other thing to just quickly mention, I wanted to give a shout out to one of our colleagues, Nina. Most of you heard from Nina Lewis. That's how you found out about the webinar today. And that's how you got the Zoom details. So I'm not sure, Nina, if you're still on the call, but a huge shout out to her for her efforts.
And thank you all, and a huge shout out for all of you and the world and the work that you do as you are continuing to be in the thick of it, right in the middle of it. And we learn and we are continuing to walk. And so thank you for reminding us about what's happening and how we can continue to be partners and walk along. Mandy, you want to wrap us up? Is Mandy still on the call? Did she leave us? No, there she is.
I forgot to unmute myself. Thank you, everybody, for your participation. This has really been good. I enjoyed listening to what's going on and feeling, even though we're separated, feeling a little connected to you and knowing what you're going through, what you're feeling, and what your ideas are. I'm thinking about some of the things that were said about groups going into survival mode. That made sense to me. How we had to change up things that we did before, and to move into the mode that we need to do to help our people. Talking about the sharing of our resources. I really appreciate that. That's something I've seen all over, but yes, one of the positives that came out of this situation is people opening their hearts a little bit, you know, and thinking a little unselfishly when they see someone in need, helping them out. And that's when the things come up. But for us to find ways to help communities to tap into that continually would be great. The impact of the water. I liked the fact that we were talking about that the right to have water for life. That's important. I can't believe that anybody would think that's not important. But so many things that we discuss, and I really appreciate it. And we want you to know that what we share, we're going to be sharing with our national committees and the larger church. And at some point, we're going to try to take what you shared as and create a resource so that it could be looked at and shared with others. So just want to thank you again, everybody, for your participation, and continue to do good work.
Alonzo, I'm sorry, one last reminder. There are a couple of webinars that are coming up. If we will be in touch with you in case you're interested. One will be around Native American issues, and Alonzo, maybe you can say a bit more to that. And one will be around Native American issues, the Native American response to COVID-19. Fern and others will be speaking to that. But just wanted to share that we are hopefully going to be hosting some more webinars in the near future. Thank you all for being part of this.
Thank you all. Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I
very
just
much.
want to leave with one parting word. I want us to bear in mind that no matter where we live, whether it's in a city, whether it's in a rural area, whether it's the United States or whether it's abroad, that we're all connected. What we do impact people around this world, and what they do impact us here in the United States. People will have us to believe that we're separate, but we're all human beings with the same desires. All of us wants to be loved. All of us wants to be safe, have our children be educated, and have a better life than we have. And that we all want to make sure that our neighbors are doing well as in addition to that. So as we move forward, I remember Maya Angelou and her poem, "We're more alike than not alike." So let us bear that in mind as the work that we move forward.
Powerful benediction. Thank you very much, Phyllis. And be well, everyone.
Be
Blessings.
well.
Let's
Thank
stay in
you.
touch. Let's stay connected.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.